So now we're going to mix it. Smash those egg yolks in there. I've actually also made this recipe with egg whites from a carton, and it was fine. So if you don't have eggs but you have egg whites, then you can use that and it will still come out just the same. And I've used Adam's peanut butter, and I've used this, and I've used Skippy. I've used like everything. So you'll notice as you're mixing that it's kind of stiff and kind of tough. It's going to get stuck to your spoon, so go ahead and like push it off with your finger. And you gotta like scrape the sides of the bowl and stuff, but when it gets too hard to stir it, then you're just gonna like use your fingers and like kind of mush it together like bread dough. But it's not time for that yet. So if you're gonna use your hands, take off any jewelry and put it in your pocket so you don't lose it. And then, my mom's laughing behind the camera. And then, so you pick up a bunch of it, and it's going to look like this. It's going to crumble and everything. So you kind of like see if you can make it form a ball. And if you can, then you use that ball to like pick up, see this flour that I just picked up with it? And stuff like that. And it's going to be crumbly, and that's fine, because the longer you knead it like this, the less crumbly it gets, and it'll form a ball. And when it does, then you get to take it out of the bowl. But until then, you just do this and more of this forever. Not forever. It only takes a couple minutes. Alright, so look now. See, it's a ball. So now what I'm going to do is take some of the flour. That's the oven. It's preheated. Put the flour on the counter like this. Take this and go like that. And then just keep doing what I was doing in the bowl on the counter. Obviously, wipe the counter first. I'm too short for this counter. And it should be like tough, you know, like that. Now I put a little more flour, and now it's time to roll it. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can do it by hand. Like, I'll start it by hand, but then I'll use a rolling pin. But you just like kind of flatten it. Or you can use a glass and like one of these and like roll it, but you can do it this way, but it's easier to do it with a rolling pin, like so. And you roll it. My toaster is in the way. Move, toaster. And don't electrocute me. My counters are a little cluttered, sorry guys. Stay. Okay, so make sure you roll in all directions, kind of like from the center out. And if you see any big cracks forming, then roll them smooth. And it's supposed to be, what does it say, about a ½ inch thick, but I don't really pay attention to that. I just roll it until it seems like it's good. So it should look something like that. Okay, and if any sticks to the pin, just stick it on and roll it. Now that it's the right thickness, you can use cookie cutters, but I don't have any, actually. I do, but I don't know where they are. So I use this. And the first thing I do is cut off all the edges. So make them flat. Like, it doesn't have to be a square, but just cut the edges. Cut off all the jagged edges, and it's about as thick as my fingernail, like as tall, see? So that's like, I don't know, maybe, it's not a ½ inch, it's a little less than that. So anyway, so once you've done that, then you cut it into, well, you can use cookie cutters, or you can just cut it. So I like to cut it into strips, just right here on the counter, or on a cutting board, whatever you're using is okay. just try to make them about the same width as one another. If it's not exactly the same, but it's close, that's fine. Like, see this one I just made too wide a little bit by mistake. But that's alright. No problem. And then you cut them the other way. And I have 2 dogs that are going to be the same size, but they're not the same size yet, so I like to make some little. So, like, how did I do this? Yeah, just cut, like, whatever you see fit. It doesn't matter. You can make them weird shapes or whatever. And if there's any that are really tiny like this, put them in the pile with the scraps that you cut off before. And then like this, as long as they're the same thickness, it doesn't matter how big they are, like around. So, and they're all the same thickness. So like these ones will be for Addie, those are for Jax, these are for Jax. See how they're little? Because he's little. And then Addie ones, oops, get back together there. Jaxy ones. And then that's fine. So then you put them on a cookie sheet like this. You can just put them on with your hands. And you can put them really close together, so play Tetris with it because they're not going to spread. They're just going to stay the same size and the same shape. And then, when you've done that, you take your extra dough, remember from before, and you roll it, roll it, roll it some more, da-da-da, and just try to get it about the same thickness as the ones before. Cut off the edges. I dare you to eat it. It won't hurt you, it's just not very good. It's really bland. I would know, I tried. And then cut a few more cookies out of it. Oop, I said the cookies word. I'm surprised the dogs didn't come running. And then you can just make them whatever size you see fit. No pun intended, because they do have to fit on the cookie sheet. And then you put them on. And if you run out of space, which I'm not going to, but I almost did, just rearrange stuff. Okay? So here's the extra. You could try to roll it out a third time, but I'm not going to just because that's all that's left. Not really make much of a point in that. And then they're ready to go in the oven. So you put them in. Stay away, it's hot. Oops. Well, my pan is too long, so I got to turn it. But then, let me see what it says. You bake it for 20 to 25 minutes. I always set the timer for the smaller amount and check it. Then, you can feel my face. Then, when they're done baking, you turn off the oven and you leave them in the oven for an hour or 2. Because it's hot and they're going to get really hard in there. Because dogs like to chew on hard treats rather than like soft treats. Well, they like both, but you know. So anyway, yeah, then when they're done baking, they should look almost exactly like they did when you put them in, but cooked. So you'll know if they're burned because they turn black. However, I've found that my dogs don't care if they're burned. They'll eat them anyway. So that's it. That's how you make dog treats. Peanut butter bites for dogs. And have a great day.